The agency engine, the mind's blueprint to overcoming victimhood and reclaiming personal power. Have you ever found yourself in a constant loop of attributing your challenges to everyone and everything but yourself? The economy is stacked against you, your boss is unfair, your past trauma is too great. While many external forces are real, the psychological habit of framing every setback as a consequence of unchangeable outside factors is known as a victimhood mentality. This mindset drains your power, paralyzes action, and traps you in a cycle of stagnation. In this episode of The Mind's Blueprint, we delve into the core psychology of external blame and self-pity, revealing the blueprint to activating your agency engine, a powerful mechanism that shifts your locus of control from the world to your own hands, transforming helplessness into unstoppable action. David was a marketing manager whose career had been derailed by a series of legitimate misfortunes: a company layoff, a business partnership that soured, and 2 years of a sluggish economy. However, what started as misfortune had metastasized into a pervasive personal narrative. He was intelligent and capable, but his professional life was stuck in neutral. Every conversation with him was a litany of complaints. His current boss was a micromanager who stifled his creativity. The marketplace didn't appreciate genuine innovation. His colleagues received preferential treatment. He constantly sought external validation for his struggles, looking for someone else to agree that his life was hard because of external forces. This constant focus on what he couldn't change left him feeling chronically helpless, resentful, and utterly exhausted. He spent more time justifying his lack of movement than he did actually moving. His relationships suffered because his friends and family grew weary of his endless loop of blaming, recognizing that his misery was now a choice, fueled by his refusal to acknowledge his own power to respond. Psychologically, David had developed a severely external locus of control, believing his life was governed entirely by fate and luck, not his own deliberate choices. His mentor, Cassandra, was a former military officer turned business consultant who had overcome a major physical injury and subsequent career collapse by embracing radical self-responsibility. She was a living model of resilience. She found David one morning meticulously documenting an unfair policy decision by his boss, ready to circulate an internal complaint. "David," she interjected, her voice sharp but empathetic, "you are a brilliant strategist, but you're only applying your talent to the wrong target. You're strategizing against the world, trying to prove how unfair it is. The world doesn't care about fair. The blueprint for power isn't improving the injustice. It's improving your capacity to respond to the injustice. You need to fire up your agency engine." Cassandra explained that the victimhood mentality is a psychological defense mechanism. It's often safer to blame the economy than to take the painful risk of starting a new venture and possibly failing. The brain prefers the known discomfort of complaining over the unknown vulnerability of radical action. The agency engine is the practice of consciously and ruthlessly assessing every situation to identify the response gap, the small space between a stimulus, the problem, and your reaction, your choice, and dedicating all energy to optimizing that response. This shift transforms you from a powerless victim into an active participant in your own destiny. She gave him a 3-step blueprint for retraining his mind to find and seize his personal agency. If you've ever felt paralyzed by life's unfairness, hit that subscribe button to join our community and discover more blueprints for your mind. Cassandra's blueprint was designed to force David to redirect his powerful analytical mind inward. Practice the circle of influence. Audit. The first step was to physically map out his life challenges. He drew 2 concentric circles: the inner circle of influence, things he could control, his effort, his response, his learning, and the outer circle of concern, things he couldn't control, the economy, his boss's temperament, past events. For 2 weeks, he had to categorize every complaint and anxious thought into one of the two circles. The rule was simple: all energy and action had to be directed exclusively at items within the inner circle. This immediately stopped the massive energy drain of worrying about the uncontrollable. Use the reverse attribution technique. When something went wrong, he was trained to consciously reverse the attribution. Instead of defaulting to external blame, the boss gave me a bad client, he had to force himself to find one way the outcome was linked to an internal factor. What one thing could I have done differently in my proposal or communications? This didn't mean taking blame for external factors, but ruthlessly looking for leverage, the single point of action where he could gain future control. David began applying the blueprint. The initial mental friction was immense. His brain fiercely resisted the circle of influence audit, finding it exhausting to separate deeply ingrained complaint habits from his sphere of power. He'd catch himself worrying about national interest rates, circle of concern, and force that mental energy toward updating his resume, circle of influence. Slowly, empowerment emerged. The constant anxiety receded, replaced by a quiet, focused energy derived from taking action on things he could actually change. He realized he slept better because his mind was finally tackling problems, not just rehearsing them. The reverse attribution technique was brutally honest but liberating. When a client meeting went poorly, instead of blaming the client's rigidity, he found the internal link. I rushed the proposal and didn't anticipate their key objections. Acknowledging this painful truth broke the cycle of resentment. He realized the reward was a strategic roadmap. Next time, I will build an objection handling section into my pitch. This empowered him to master the final step of the blueprint: build the agency engine protocol. This was a 3-part ritual to deploy when a major setback occurred, preventing him from spiraling into the victim narrative. A, the 3-second pause. When a negative stimulus occurred, he had to take 3 seconds before reacting. This created the crucial response gap, stopping the automatic blame-based reaction and separating the event from the self. B, the future focus. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" victim question, he asked, "What am I going to do next about this?" Agent question. This shifted cognitive energy from past analysis to future action. C, the single small action. SSA. He committed to taking one immediate action within his circle of influence to correct the issue or move forward. This created momentum and neutralized the paralysis of chronic complaining. The ultimate test came 6 months later. David was leading a major product launch that was meticulously planned, but it was abruptly canceled due to a massive external industry regulation change, a textbook example of an unavoidable external setback. The news hit David like a physical blow. The old voice of despair, the victim self, surged up, whispering, "The world is rigged against you. It's always someone else's fault." He felt the familiar coldness of helplessness, and his hands instinctively clenched. This was the moment of truth. He stopped himself and enacted the agency engine protocol. He took his prescribed 3-second pause as the cold dread hit, forcing himself to breathe and resist the urge to immediately vent to his team. He looked at his team, whose faces mirrored his initial defeat. Then he deployed the future-focused question, speaking clearly and calmly. "Okay, we cannot change the regulation, and we will not spend 1 minute debating the fairness of this. The question is, what are we going to do next about this regulation change? What specific opportunities did this chaos just create for us?" He didn't waste time lamenting the injustice. He immediately committed to the single small action, SSA. He called an immediate team meeting, not to assign blame, but to assign the task of thoroughly analyzing the new regulation for hidden opportunities and market gaps their competitors were too busy complaining to see. David's clear, calm response acted as an authenticity anchor for the entire group. They immediately stopped focusing on the lost project and started charting the new landscape. Within 48 hours, David's team had pivoted the product strategy, finding an angle compliant with the new rules and positioned them as industry first movers, resulting in a bigger market share than the original plan. David had not changed the external problem, but he had entirely changed his powerful response to it. He realized that true personal power is not the ability to control every outcome, but the unwavering choice to control his own response to any outcome. He was no longer a victim of an event. He was an agent because of it. The shift gave him not just a successful project, but a life defined by power, not pity. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the architect of your response. By understanding and utilizing the blueprint of your agency engine, you can transform helplessness into limitless personal power. Join us next time to uncover more of the mind's blueprint, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more insights into the human mind.